Hello! What is going on, guys? It's Billy the Kid here, and I got another Battlefield 3 commentary for you guys. This commentary is going to be about my thoughts on the latest patch for Battlefield 3. It's going to be about what I like and don't like about the patch, and what I think that DICE is doing to Battlefield 3. Please leave in the comment section below of your thoughts on the patch, what you liked and don't like about it, and what you think that they should do to Battlefield 3 to make it a much better video game. This gameplay you're watching right now was a pretty intense Metro Conquest 1000 ticket match that I joined in very late. There was no way that we were ever gonna pull it back. We were not gonna win, but more or less I had fun. I got a lot of kills, and just wanted to share some good gameplay with you guys. I know I've shown you a lot of Metro gameplay, so I'm going to get you some different gameplay, perhaps on some Back to Karkan maps and some other maps other than Operation Metro, because Metro is one of my favorite maps. But anyway, let's get on with the commentary. So, the good points on the patch that I really liked. Number one, no more USAS with frag rounds. This was a godsend, I'm sure, to a lot of people, but particularly to myself, because I hated the USAS of frag rounds. You know, a lot of people do, because it was seen by many, including myself, as a cheap weapon. It was very overpowered. Its rate of fire was not nerfed. It had an unbelievable range. People were sniping from a mile away with the thing, and people saw it as a cheap weapon. I agree. But thank God they said they were going to fix it. They have. It's fixed. And since the patch, I have very rarely seen anybody use the USAS or frag rounds. Of course, I've seen people use the USAS with buckshot, excuse me, with flechette rounds, and what's the other one? Slug rounds, of course. But the major problem of the frag rounds has now been eliminated. Nobody's using it anymore. So that's one good point for the patch. Number two, no more MAV riding. That was one thing that really got my nerves. Snipers, especially on one of the Back to Karkan maps, I think called Back to Karkan. I'm pretty sure it's what it's called. They would nav themselves on top of the really tall buildings that would make it nearly impossible to get them off without, say, using a mortar. Thank God they said they're going to fix that, and they have, but there is some reports on PC that on some of the servers you are still able to MAV ride, and DICE have said since then that they are still working on totally eliminating it. So I'd say, you know, on the PC reports it's about 85 to 90% eliminated, but DICE have said they're going to fix that. But I haven't personally seen anybody on the PS3 MAV ride. I have seen, and I'll put in the footage, seeing as I have it on the hard drive, I'll put in the footage of, I saw two snipers trying, possibly testing out to see, because this was right after the patch was released, testing out to see if it was possible to MAV ride, and to see if DICE lived up to their word on them saying that they would eliminate. And as you can probably see now, if I put in the footage, they fail, and they actually start taking fire from enemy snipers back in the enemy deployment area. So it's a good thing that they have eliminated that. That was a major problem with the camping sniper issue. They have eliminated that. It hasn't, of course, eliminated the camping sniper issue as a whole. People still do camp snipe because that's what they enjoy to do. You're not going to get everybody playing the objective, and that's one thing that everybody has to realize. You're not going to get a perfect patch. You're not going to get a perfect video game in which everybody plays by the rules, because if it was like that in a video game, well, there wouldn't be anything to complain about now, would there? But yeah, you're not going to get everybody that plays by the rules. You just gotta accept that. So thank God there's no more MAV riding anymore. So we'll get on to the next one. The anti-aliasing option that they put in the options tab was a godsend to myself, because I don't know what, you know, there was a massive problem with input lag on PS3. I'm sure it was, I don't know if it was the same on Xbox, but for myself particularly, with HD TV. There was some issue with me and input lag with my controller. But the first match I got after the patch, I went to options, I turned the anti-aliasing off, and I went 63 and 14, which was, you know, not my usual KD. So I instantly thought, yeah, this input lag is gone. And since then, I very rarely get input lag anymore. So I really commend DICE for addressing the input lag issue and putting the anti-aliasing option in Battlefield. So thank you, DICE, for putting that in. The next one is weapon balancing. There were a few weapons, of course, that were overpowered, like the F2000, the USAS with FAG rounds, MK3A1, the FAMAS. There was a lot of them. I mean, there was a lot of them, but they have balanced out more or less all of the weapons now. So they're all more or less the same in terms of range, in terms of recoil. I mean, no, excuse me, I screwed that one up. They're not the same now anymore. They're all different. So you have to go back, and it's basically like a new Battlefield 3. It's much different now than what we were used to for 6 months. So we have to go and learn all of the weapons. That's one of the bad issues that I don't like about the patch. It's one of the bad issues. They didn't need to do that. They just need to nerf and fix some of the weapons. The ones I just mentioned, USAS, FAMAS, blah blah blah. They just needed to do that. They didn't need to go and tweak all the weapons in terms of recoil, range, hip fire, whatever. They didn't need to do that, but they did, and we have to go and learn all the weapons again. So that's one thing I didn't like about the patch. I was very used to most of the weapons. Now I have to go and learn them all again after 6 months of gameplay. So I'm not too shabby on that idea, but the hell, that's what DICE did. They're in charge. And the last good point of the patch that I liked is the repair tool. It was nerfed. It takes much longer now to repair a vehicle, and I welcome that. I really do welcome that. It encourages team play between a tank commander and a gunner who might be a repairman. If the tank starts taking damage, the repairman has to get out now and start repairing it instantly. You know, rather than wait until the tank is disabled and then start repairing it. Because the major problem for me was the scout helicopters with 2 repair guys on it, and you would fire endless amounts of stingers at the choppers, and they would never ever go down. Ever. And that was a major problem that I had personally. Especially on maps like Damavand Peak and Nashahar Canals, where the choppers would just dominate the entire map. So I really do thank DICE for nerfing the repair tool. It increases team play between the gunners and the repairmen, or, you know, whatever. But, yes, I know it takes longer to repair, but you'll just have to get used to that. There was no problem, say, with repairing a vehicle, but it just took a lot more time to repair it now. So you just have to get used to it. So there are my good points for the patch. Now we're going to go to the bad points about the patch. As I said before, now all the weapons are near brand new, and you have to go and learn to use them again. Some of the weapons have been tweaked too far, in my view, kind of like the AEK. It was very low recoil with the foregrip and suppressor on. But hey, look, I don't mind many of the weapons. I never really used the AEK much anyway. I thought it was very high on recoil, and now it's very high on recoil, so you have to learn to compensate for it. But I didn't agree that all the weapons have to be tweaked. Not all the weapons. I mean, I don't think the pistols have been tweaked in major ways other than maybe damage. I think the 44 Magnum and 357 Magnum have been buffed. But, you know, all the assault rifles, submachine guns, carbines, all the weapons have been tweaked in terms of recoil and range and this, that, or the other. So I didn't really agree with that. But I'll have to get used to it again. But I don't like about that. I don't feel that it was necessary 6 months down the line to basically make a new Battlefield 3 game in terms of all the weapons being tweaked. It's just one thing I don't like about it. Number 2 on the points I don't like about is the Stinger Igla range has been now nerfed. Yes, you can still kill choppers with Igla and Stinger, thank God. You only take 1 hit to disable the chopper, which is good. But you can forget about trying to knock down a jet with one. The range has been severely nerfed. And although I welcome the increased damage this Stinger and Igla do, I don't like how it was nerfed. I think the range is a bit too short. Maybe make it maybe 20 meters longer, and you would have a really nice balance between range and the chopper getting its flare off in time. Because right now the Stinger and Igla are somewhere between useless and effective. If the chopper has, say, stealth on, and the gunner has flares, and after a good team, they will avoid all the Stingers. Guaranteed. Because with stealth on, it takes much longer to get a lock on. Sometimes it never locks on. Maybe it's a bug with the patch, I'm not too sure. But I've seen, particularly with myself, when I was trying to lock onto a chopper, it doesn't lock on at all. Now, I don't know if that's stealth activating or whatever. But if the chopper is very low and it's got below radar, you can forget about locking onto them. So if you got a good crew in an attack helicopter, then you can forget about the Stingers. You'll just have to try and RPG the guy, and if you're lucky, you'll get both of them. But yeah, I don't think the range had to be nerfed. I think the range was a bit too long, but it didn't have to be nerfed that severely. I think maybe somewhere, like I said, maybe 20 meters longer, and you would have a nice balance between the too long and too short. So that's just one point I don't like about the patch. Another point is the damage to tanks has now been increased. Although I didn't agree with the damage to, you know, you'd spend all day RPGing a tank, and that repairman would be behind the tank repairing it all day. So I didn't agree with that, but the tanks now take extreme amounts of damage to the side and back. Now, I know that's a bit realistic, because side armor on a tank and the back armor on the tank are much weaker than the front. So if you are going to try and take out a tank, you should fire from the side and the back. But to disable a tank in one hit to the rear, okay, I'll agree with that. But if you got 3 engineers, say, all over the place, 1 on the back, 2 on each side, and they all fire at once, there's no way you're going to even try to repair the tank. And the tank on tank duels now are much shorter, but that, you know, ignores skill, in my view. Let me rephrase that. Tank battles now are much shorter, so it doesn't matter whether you're skilled or not. The guy just has to get a lucky shot to get you. So there's no real tactics involved. There's no real skill involved. If your gunner isn't a repairman, you can kiss your tank goodbye. So, or repairman, your gunner doesn't have to be an engineer, and you can kiss your tank goodbye. You know, ever since the patch came out, I see that when I get in a tank, within 5 minutes of trying to cap a flag or support the teammates going into an MCOM, I'm blown up by engineers from the front and the side almost instantaneously. So I don't like how it's been increased to a certain extent. I did want it increased a little bit, but not that much. They've gone too far in terms of damage. And the last point I want to bring up of the bad points I don't like about the patch is that they seem to have ignored team deathmatch spawns. They haven't gone anywhere near team deathmatch. They seem to be more focused on weapon balancing and bug fixing rather than going after certain aspects of the game. For example, there are still the bugs in which you lose your sound, or more or less lose all audio in games like on Tehran Highway is one of them. I think Operation Firestorm is another one, but you lose your sound sometimes in these games on these levels, or on these maps, I should say, which is a bit annoying, you know. Sometimes the map is all black for some strange reason. I'm not talking about damage from grenades or anything, but the second you start a game in these maps, it's all black for some reason. Patches of the ground are all black, as if there's no terrain on them at all. Like, so I didn't like how they just completely ignored that, and the spawn system on Team Deathmatch is not fixed at all. Now, I don't play a lot of Team Deathmatch, but when I do, I just seem to die a lot, and that's why I don't like, personally, Team Deathmatch. I don't like it, but I don't like the spawns in it, more or less. Every time I spawn in, bang, you're dead because a guy just spawned right behind you. Or sometimes it's good when you spawn in and behind it, a whole enemy team, and you waste them all. But that's the thing, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to do that in Team Deathmatch, or any other game mode for that matter. So I don't like how they completely ignored that particular problem. But here's my final thought on the patch. It's good. It's good that DICE are working on it. Because they are... You guys have to understand that they're working their ass off to fix the game, because they were pushed in a corner by EA to release the game early. The game isn't finished yet. We all have to admit that. It's more or less an early release of Battlefield 3, but it's not particularly finished. They were pushed in a corner by EA, because they wanted to release it early in time for Modern Warfare 3 to capitalize on the sales. That's just how it is. So they're working their ass off to try and fix it, and they are listening to the Battlefield community, but they have to take orders from EA. You have to remember that they have a boss, just like everybody else in the real world, and they are listening to our input as a community, but they have to address all the problems at hand and in parts. So you're not going to get everything fixed in one magical patch that everybody thought this patch was going to do. They were going to address the serious issues at hand, the USAS, the nav writing, etc, etc. But they're not going to fix everything at once. So you're going to have to give them time to have them fix what you want them to fix. That's all I'm saying. Just give them a break. If you want to be angry at EA and not DICE, because they're working their ass off as game developers. So look, that's just my thought on the patch. I wanted to give the patch enough time for me to go over and play as much as possible on the patch to find out as much as possible for you guys. I didn't want to release a commentary on my thoughts on the patch a day after the release, because that's not giving it enough time. I'm not giving the patch a fair due to show me what I did to change the game. So that's just my thoughts on the patch. Wow, this has been a very long commentary. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. It was a pretty crazy match. And thank you for watching, guys. Please comment, rate, and subscribe on your thoughts. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.